The night it all began was sharp with tension, the kind that presses against the chest and makes the air feel heavier than it should, when one small, unexpected act of courage quietly rewrote 2 lives without either of them realizing it yet. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of good people doing the right thing when it matters most, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because stories like this belong to all of us. Ethan Miller had learned how to carry the weight of the world silently. At 34, he was a single father whose mornings started before sunrise and whose nights ended long after his son Liam had fallen asleep with a book on his chest. His life moved in careful routines shaped by school drop-offs, grocery lists, and bedtime promises he never broke. Grief had carved deep lines into his soul after losing his wife years earlier, but love for his child filled the cracks enough to keep him standing. He worked as a senior analyst at a prestigious consulting firm, dependable, invisible, and rarely noticed beyond his performance reports. What most people did not see was how tired he was, not just in his body, but in his heart, and how often he chose silence over speaking up because peace at home mattered more than recognition at work. Claire Thompson was the kind of woman people described as intimidating before they ever really knew her. As the firm's managing director, she commanded rooms without raising her voice, her presence polished and controlled, her life appearing flawless from the outside. What no one saw was how lonely success had made her, how dinners were often eaten alone, and how each attempt at finding connection felt more like a transaction than a promise. She noticed Ethan long before he ever noticed her, admired the steadiness in him, the way he never complained, the way he spoke about his son with a quiet pride that softened her in ways she did not fully understand. But she buried those feelings beneath professionalism, telling herself it was admiration, nothing more. The night of the bad date unfolded in a high-end restaurant filled with warm lighting and expensive expectations. Claire had agreed to meet someone recommended by a business associate, convincing herself to try again, to not let past disappointments harden her completely. The evening soured quickly, not with loud drama, but with subtle cruelty, dismissive comments disguised as jokes, and an undercurrent of control that made her skin crawl. She stayed longer than she should have, trapped between politeness and the pressure of appearances, feeling smaller with every passing minute. Ethan had only stopped by the restaurant to pick up a takeout order after working late, his mind already drifting toward home and the promise of Liam's sleepy smile. He recognized Claire immediately, saw the stiffness in her posture, the way her eyes kept darting toward the exit, and something inside him shifted. He did not know the full story, did not understand why his boss looked so uncomfortable, but he recognized distress because he lived with its echoes every day. Without planning it, without thinking of consequences, he stepped in, positioning himself as a familiar interruption, a harmless rescue wrapped in normalcy. It was not heroic in a grand sense, but it was brave in the quiet way that matters most. The moment passed quickly, but its impact lingered. Claire left that restaurant shaken yet strangely grounded, realizing how close she had come to ignoring her instincts again. Ethan went home unsettled, replaying the scene in his mind, worried he had crossed a line, unaware that his simple act had done more than save an evening. It had restored a piece of Claire's faith she did not know she had lost. In the days that followed, their interactions at work subtly changed. Nothing dramatic, nothing spoken aloud, but a softness emerged where there had once been only formality. Claire saw Ethan not just as an employee, but as a man of integrity, depth, and quiet strength. Ethan, meanwhile, struggled with a growing awareness of her humanity, realizing his boss was not the untouchable figure he had imagined, but someone vulnerable, carrying her own unspoken battles. Life, however, does not allow tenderness without testing it. Ethan's son fell ill, deadlines tightened, and whispers at work hinted that stepping out of line could have consequences. Ethan questioned whether being decent was a luxury he could afford. Claire faced her own storm, as board pressures mounted and personal loneliness pressed harder than ever. She wanted to reach out, to say thank you properly, to admit what she felt, but fear of rejection and professional boundaries kept her silent. Change came slowly, through shared moments of understanding rather than grand gestures. Claire began advocating for healthier work policies, inspired by the balance Ethan fought so hard to maintain. Ethan found himself trusting her leadership in ways he never had before. Their lives, once running parallel, began to gently converge, not in romance yet, but in mutual respect and emotional safety. It was only much later, during a quiet company event where laughter replaced tension and walls lowered just enough, that Claire realized the truth she could no longer deny. She had been in love with Ethan long before that night at the restaurant, long before he saved her from a bad date, drawn to the goodness in him that existed without expectation. And Ethan, standing there watching her smile freely for perhaps the first time, felt something stir in his chest that scared him almost as much as it healed him. If this story has touched something deep inside you, if it reminded you that kindness can change lives in ways we may never fully see, please take a moment near the end of this video to like, share, and comment, because your engagement helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. Just before this story ends, we have a special request for you to comment and tell us what moment moved you the most, because your words matter more than you know. The beauty of their story was never about a dramatic rescue or a perfect ending, but about two wounded souls finding safety in each other through empathy, patience, and courage. In a world that often rewards loudness and ambition, Ethan and Claire discovered that love sometimes grows in silence, born from simple acts of humanity, and that even the most unexpected connections can become the reason we believe again.